Before the video begins, take a moment to review the video lesson's expectations. Happy learning! Hola clase, today we're talking about demonstrative adjectives and pronouns. So what are demonstratives? Well, in English, the demonstratives this, these, that, and those are used to point out specific things or people. A demonstrative can be either an adjective or a pronoun, and it agrees with the noun it describes or replaces. So the example we have here is, those rings are expensive. Those is the demonstrative adjective that is describing rings. Which rings? Those rings. In Espanol, that would be, esos anillos son caros. Esos would be our demonstrative in Spanish. So here are our demonstrative adjectives. Demonstratives indicate where something is. In Spanish, they show if something is close to, not as close to, or far away from the speaker. So it's all in reference to where the speaker is standing. Our demonstrative adjectives, like many things in Spanish, have to agree with our noun in both gender and number. When you're referring to something that is close by you, you're going to use the demonstrative this. Now in Spanish we have two ways we can say this. We would use este if the noun that you're talking about is masculine, and you would use esta if the noun that you are talking about is feminine. If you're referring to something that is not close to you but not far away, you would use the demonstrative that. In Spanish, we have two ways we can say this. If you're talking about a noun that is masculine, you would say ese. If you're talking about a noun that is feminine, then you would use esa. If you're referring to something that is very far away from you, then you would use the demonstrative that, right? That way over there. If the noun you're talking about is masculine, you would use aquel. If the noun that you're talking about is feminine, you would use aquella. Now, these can also be plural. If you're referring to many things that are close to you, you would use the demonstrative these. In Spanish, there are two ways we can say this. If the nouns that you are talking about are masculine, you would say estos. If the nouns that you are talking about are feminine, you would say estas. When you're referring to things that are not close to you but not far away, you would say those. In Spanish, we have two ways we can say this. If the nouns that you are talking about are masculine, you would say esos. If the nouns that you are talking about are feminine, you would say esas. When you are referring to multiple things that are very far away from you, you would use the demonstrative those, like those way over there. In Spanish, we have two ways to say this. If the nouns that you are talking about are masculine, you would say aquellos. If the nouns that you are talking about are feminine, you would say aquellas. So demonstrative adjectives appear before the noun. And like I said before, they agree in gender and number with the noun that they describe. The adjectives work with the noun. You'll see both the adjective and the noun in the sentence. So we have three examples here, one for each distance away from the speaker. So the first one would be referring to things that are close to the speaker. So in English, how much does this ring cost? Or in Espanol, ¿cuánto cuesta este anillo? We use este in this context because anillo is masculine and it's singular. The middle example shows us how to use the demonstrative adjectives that refer to things that are not close to the speaker but not too far away from the speaker. So our example in English says, that ring costs $10. In Spanish, that would be, ese anillo cuesta $10. We use ese in this context because anillo is masculine and it's singular. And the last example on this slide demonstrates how to use the demonstratives that refer to things that are far away from the speaker. So in English, the example is, that ring over there is cheaper. In Espanol, that would be, aquel anillo es más barato. We use aquel in this context because anillo is masculine and it's singular. Now here are our demonstrative pronouns. You'll notice that they look very familiar. They in fact have the same spellings as our demonstrative adjectives. However, they do have accents. So demonstrative pronouns have accents. However, there is no change in the pronunciation of the word. While our demonstrative adjectives work with the nouns in the sentences, demonstrative pronouns take the place of nouns. And again, they agree in gender and number with the nouns that they replace. So just like with our other examples, these 3 examples demonstrate the different distances from the speaker. So our first one, the question in English asks, how much does this one cost? You'll notice that we've taken out the word ring in each of these examples because our demonstrative pronoun is replacing the word ring. So instead of saying this ring, we're saying this one. So in Espanol, that would be ¿Cuánto cuesta este? Make sure to include that accent over the first E. The middle example says that one costs $10. In Espanol, ese cuesta $10. Remember to include the accent over the E. And the last one, that one over there is cheaper. Aquel es más barato. Remember to include the accent over the E. That is all we have for today. If you're confused or you got lost, go ahead and rewind and rewatch any part of the video that you need to. Adios!